all of us as a whole have been waiting 8 months to see, okay, how much will they improve? They can't get any worse. There's just no way you can get worse than 123 out of 130 teams. And then you come out here after 8 long months, and the media has promoted Iowa football. Iowa has promoted Iowa football. It gets you amped for the game. We've been doing a countdown to kickoff. We've had all kinds of preseason hype. And then we see the product on the field. We waited 8 months for that. Coming up, my take on Iowa's 7-3 win over South Dakota State. And do fans really have the right to boo? Well, the short answer is, yeah, they do. We'll get to it in a moment. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Under the Kitchen, doing great work as I bring up each and every week. He was at Fry Fest. He'll continue to do great Hawkeye prints, signed Hawkeye prints. Reach out to Randy Engel, Under the Kitchen on Facebook. Great artwork from a great artist. And Ascent Nutrition, if you need a coffee, if you need something to pick you up, if you feel groggy, under the weather after that 7-3 victory for the Hawkeyes and that offensive display on Saturday, maybe get yourself a bag of this. Ascent Coffee. It's mold and mycotoxin-free Ascent Coffee. Visit goascentnutrition.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off. That's a bigger percent than number of points scored in total on Saturday. All right. 9 long months. That's kind of the theme of the segment for today. You know, I'm not going to rake Iowa over the coals, but I think they, in some regards, deserve it, especially the coaching staff. I'm not going to attack Spencer Petras personally because he certainly is, I think, doing his best. I have no reason to think he's not playing his hardest out there. That's not the question people have. The question is, how is this our best? And that's the question that continues to go unanswered. And throughout the offseason, and I don't mean to go on here and just say I told you so, but throughout the offseason, you heard me say over and over again how Iowa needed to pursue a transfer portal quarterback, and just never even an inkling that Iowa was doing that or that Iowa did that. And I've had some people say, well, how do you know? How do you know Iowa didn't go after a quarterback in the transfer portal? I can't say with 100% certainty, but in this day and age with social media and, players reporting their offers and even visits and interest, somebody would know. We would know. It'd be out there. Iowa is content with Spencer Petras. Kirk Ferentz was asked after the performance yesterday about his plans moving forward at the quarterback position. He responded and said, I don't anticipate any changes. Now, certainly quarterback is not the only position that needs help. The offensive line struggled. I thought Logan Jones struggled. They haven't been healthy for much of fall camp, I think throughout much of spring and summer. But we hear that excuse every year. You have to develop depth at this level. And right now, Iowa looks like the same offensive line they did last year, minus the best center in the country, Tyler Linderbaum. And that is not a recipe for success. The run game struggled. And just for the record, our good friend Mark Rogers over at Iowa Football, at the Voice of College Football on YouTube, check out that channel if you've not already. He produced a video here today talking about that exact subject, the stats, the numbers behind the game result. And I'm not going to rehash all of that. If you want to check that out, certainly visit Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. But here are some highlights from Iowa's offensive performance yesterday. Just 10 first downs for the Hawkeyes. And yes, the defense held South Dakota State all day. The defense looked terrific. I thought the front seven was every bit as good as I expected it to be. I thought the defensive backfield was better than I anticipated it would be. Justin Jacobs' health is in the air right now. We'll hopefully get an update on him in a couple of days. But the defense was great. The offense, though, just 10 first downs for the entire day. The good news is just one penalty committed for Iowa. But here's the flip side of that. 36 rush attempts for 57 yards. Now, granted, the 1.6 yards per carry is factoring in sacks. So let's just look at the numbers without the sacks, rushing numbers without the sacks. And you really can't do that at the college level because that's how the college game is tracked, right? The sack yardage is a part of it. And I don't really like that system, but that's just how it is. Sean Williams ran 24 times for 76 yards, an average of 3 yards per carry. I didn't think he played too badly. Honestly, that number I expected to be lower. I would have guessed, without looking at the stat sheet during the game, that he was closer to around 50 yards. But he ends up with 76 yards. But overall, it's still, I mean, you have to average more than 3 yards per carry before sacks are counted in. I mean, certainly you have to average more than 3 yards per carry. I think you have to average at least 4 yards per carry if you want a respectable number. And then, you have to have good pass protection as well. You get behind the chains. That is sort of, I think, some reasoning you can use, some logic behind why the college game is tracked that way, because certainly you take a sack, it does kind of, it puts you behind the chains and really limits your ability to run to get out of trouble. And that's what Iowa did. They didn't punch themselves in the face with penalties, but they did so with lack of pass protection and taking sacks. Caleb Johnson ran just 3 times for 1 yard. And certainly that hurts your average as well. Bruce had 1 carry for 11 yards. Monty Pottebaum with a carry for 3 yards. And as I mentioned, Spencer Petras with 5 runs total for a net of negative 25 yards. And boy, just not good protection up front. Petras ends up 11 of 25. So just around 45%, 42%, somewhere in there. I don't have the math in front of me at the moment, but 1 interception, no touchdowns, just cracked the 100-yard mark through the air at 109 yards. I mentioned a couple of sacks that he took, and he was pressured a lot more than those 2 sacks reflect. I thought he made some bad throws without protection. He made some bad throws with protection. There was a throw to Alec Wick, I believe, in that second half that was just a terrible throw. It was a grounder. And simple route up the middle and simple throw. Should be a simple throw for an experienced senior quarterback. And it's just still a throw that Spencer Petras doesn't make consistently. I don't understand the number of throws high and hot. We saw that in 2020, and I thought it got a little bit better as that year wore on, and we've kind of just went backwards based upon this one performance. Spencer still can't keep the ball low. Coach John Patterson joined us for the postgame show after the game and said, usually the reason for throwing the ball high is because you're not placing your weight on that front foot. And that's just basic fundamentals of quarterback play. And I'm still confused as to why this is continuing to be a problem. You look at total offensive yards, Iowa with 166 on 61 plays, an average of 2.7 yards per play, gain per play. 1 fumble loss for the Hawkeyes, just the 1 turnover. Kickoffs were handled by Drew Stevens, field goals by Aaron Blom. Blom missed 1 from inside of 40, made 1 from outside of 40, just crossed the uprights at around 45 yards. I still think that's a wide open competition. A little bit surprised that Drew Stevens didn't kick the 45-yarder, but Blom did make it. I give him credit for that, but certainly does not have the bigger leg. You look at personnel, I thought Quinn Schulte really played well. He's not a real big guy, kind of reminds you of a Jack Kerner, maybe an immature Jack Kerner physically. He's got some room to grow. Certainly, physically, I think he still could pack on a few pounds, it appears to me at least, but he knows where to be, made several nice plays on the ball, and that's a good offense. Remember, I predicted, and I guess we can talk about this on a future segment maybe, but I predicted Iowa would win by 10. They end up winning by 4. I certainly did not predict a low-scoring game, and the reason why, and I got some backlash for this when I predicted 31-21 at the time, the reason why I predicted that is because Iowa's strength is the defense, but they're going up against a really good South Dakota State offense that featured an NFL tight end, potential NFL running back, and a guy at quarterback who was Offensive Player of the Year his freshman season. So I had reason to believe that South Dakota State could at least get 21 points on the board. Iowa's defense was terrific, but South Dakota State's defense was not the stronger of the 2 units. It was not perceived to be the stronger of the 2 units. The fact that Iowa couldn't score a single touchdown against that FCS defense, I no doubt it's a very good FCS defense, but very good to the FCS standard. Iowa's going to be going up against better defenses almost all year long. And none of those points scored were because of some great offensive performance, right? I mentioned the 4 points due to the safeties and then the field goal. Defensively, I mentioned just how dominant this defense was up front. I thought Terry Roberts really played well. Jermari Harris, they'll get back next week. The 3 points that South Dakota State scored were due to an Iowa interception. So I give Iowa tons of credit on that side of the ball, as I always do, and as fans should always do, because it's just an absolutely stellar defense. I anticipate this to be a top 10 defense nationally. And if they can figure out place kicking, I still think that's a question mark until I see somebody take control in a game. And Aaron Blom did miss a short kick. Until I see that happen, I'll have some question marks there. And the return game is going to be lacking due to the loss of Charlie Jones, which if you watch the game on Thursday between the Nittany Lions and the Boilermakers, boy, you're really longing for that kid back in a Hawkeye uniform. So, folks, look, is the booing deserved? That's the last thing I want to cover before I head out for this segment. There were boos even starting in that first quarter when Iowa couldn't convert a first down, or I should say convert a third down for a first down, and they continued throughout the day. I think some fans believed that maybe you'd get a change at quarterback. I never once, during that game on Saturday, expected Kirk Ferentz to make a change at quarterback. He has repeatedly doubled down, not only at the quarterback position, his refusal to go to the transfer portal at quarterback, his decision to promote his son, who produced a 123rd ranked offense last season, promote him to not only continue as the OC, but as QB's coach, a position he has no prior knowledge in, no knowledge of as far as just the simple basics of QB play. Kirk Ferentz has repeatedly doubled down. And so it doesn't surprise me that despite the booing, he's not going to be affected by booing. Here's a guy who's 67 years old. He's been here 23 years. He's larger than life around here. I think he feels like the most powerful person in the program because he is the most powerful person in that, not only program, but the athletic department as a whole. And he knows he can get away with it. And look, I like Kirk Ferentz. I'm not trying to go on a rant against Kirk. I just understand he's got some major blind spots, and I don't believe fans booing makes a difference. Do they have a right to boo? Yes, because of what I led with. You've waited 8 months. Fans have waited 8 months, and I know some of you wanted Iowa. You agreed with me. You wanted Iowa to go to the transfer portal at quarterback. Some told me no. They don't do that. You got to get better with what you have. Give Brian a chance. Spencer's got some good intangibles. It's not like he was a 2-star quarterback out of high school. Give these guys a chance. You don't want to throw off chemistry. Look, I don't agree with that argument, but you're welcome to have that opinion. But all of us as a whole have been waiting 8 months to see, okay, how much will they improve? They can't get any worse. There's just no way you can get worse than 123 out of 130 teams. And then you come out here after 8 long months, and the media has promoted Iowa football. Iowa has promoted Iowa football. It gets you amped for the game. We've been doing a countdown to kickoff. We've had all kinds of preseason hype. And then we see the product on the field. We waited 8 months for that. We'll talk about it more coming up in the coming days right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm and our sister channel with Mark Rogers. A reminder, I'll be live on Wednesday on this channel, live on Wednesday, talking to you, 9 p.m. for a live edition of Hawkeye Hangout. You'll be able to join by telephone or by video. And on Tuesday, a reminder to everybody, if you haven't checked out the show over on our sister channel, on Tuesday, we'll be live with Mark Rogers, 4:30 p.m. Central Time for Iowa Hawkeyes Live. That's Iowa Hawkeyes Live, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll start looking forward to the Cyhawk game, which Iowa opening line now out, favored by just 3 points at home. We'll talk to you soon.